Welcome to an exclusive KEM feature of Young Disciples series Impact Discipleship today. We are hosted by Logan. Logan Blue. Ow, ow!
All right, well, I just want to open up by a word of prayer before we dive into it. I have a lot that I want to unpack, so I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible through the first bit, so that way we can really dive into what we're talking about, okay? All right, Lord our Father, I just thank you for this day. I just pray that you just do a cleansing of our minds and a renewing of our spirit right now. Just prepare our hearts for this time to be able to share and with each other just different hardships that we could be experiencing right now, and just this world with so much pressures and perversion and everything like that. I just pray that you just continue to calm us and just push us forward to grow more in likeness to you, God, and grow closer in your love and in your wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay. So, by show of hands, who's read the book The Pilgrim's Progress?
Heard of it.
Okay. Pilgrim's Progress is a fantastic book. I don't know if... I'll read on the back kind of what it's about. So basically, it's about The Pilgrim's Progress, chronicles of the epic adventure of a man named Christian who leaves his home in the city of destruction and begins a lifelong quest to the celestial city, right? And sets the backdrop of a hazardous journey. This powerful drama unfolds as Christian adventures lead him into a fascinating lands and encounters with interesting people who either help or hinder his progress along the narrow way. Basically, the book itself is about a dream that a man had about the Christian walk, about a man's walk through his faith. And there's a lot of parallels that are drawn. There are a lot of similes. There is a lot of really strong images that are held in this book that help you really visualize what it's like in a modern sense to walk in faith. You know, all the greatest teachers, even in the Bible, use modern day metaphors to bring things into light. You know, Jesus used parables, and Paul drew similarities. You know, there's many tools that they use to be able to bring across their message, so that way people can digest it in a way that's helpful, okay, that's practical for them. So in this book, they use a lot of personification of very literal terms, things like destruction and deception, and Christian itself is a personification, right? So the main character, Christian, is literally a Christian, so it's just a personification. It's really funny. There's a unique kind of humor in this book, so I just want to dive into it. Each page about takes half a minute to read. There's about 20 pages I want to get into, and then there's verses that cross reference everything in the book. Every single page has at least 5 to 10 verses that cross reference what the book is referring to, and where in the Bible does it confirm this, or does it hit on this. And I really want to dive into a couple of these verses, so that way we can get a good idea of just exactly what this character is going through and how we can maybe apply it to our lives. The first chapter is just the very beginning of the Christian walk, and I think that it's a place that we can all relate to, because aside from Pastor Jeff himself, none of us can really sit down and say that we are seasoned or veteran, Christians, or we wouldn't ought to say that. We have much to learn and much to gain from people, and that's coming from me being the youngest of you. I'll speak more for myself. I know some of you guys you have much more experience than I do. But let's just get into it, okay? So I'm going to pass it around. I'm going to let you guys read it as well. And I want you guys to really dive into it. If you'd like to take notes, there's some great verses that on each page where you can take note of and look into if we don't go over them. Okay? So I'm just going to start here and work my way around, okay? So just need the mic.
All right, just keep it down here.
Yeah.
All right, and where to where?
Okay, so just read the first page.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I walked through the wilderness of this world, I came to a place where there was a clearing, and I laid down into a sleep. While I slept, I dreamed of a man in ragged clothes who stood with his face turned away from his own house and with the book in his hand, carrying a great burden on his back. I saw him read from the pages of the book, weeping and shaking in fear until eventually he cried out loudly, "What should I do?" He anxiously returned home and tried to remain calm so that his wife and children would not become worried. But he became so distressed that he could no longer be silent and decided it was time to tell his family exactly what was going on in his mind. "I love you all dearly," he said to his wife and children, "but I must share with you this miserable and heavy burden that I've been carrying. You see, I've been reading this book and learned that our town will be destroyed, burned with fire from heaven, unless we find some way to escape. All of us will die." His family and friends were all amazed with this story, not because they believed him, but rather because they considered him sick or even losing his mind.
Okay, perfect. Would you like to pick up where he left off? Okay, no problem. No. If you're not shy, if you're shy, I'm not gonna make you read. Okay.
I'm not a good reader. I'm not a strong reader.
That's okay. I am not either. So I understand.
Just the top of this page, yeah?
Yeah, just after the first period.
As evening approached, they were confident that a good night's sleep was all he needed to settle down, so they quickly got him to bed. When the morning came, they asked him how he was feeling, and he said, "It's worse than before." He wanted to share with them more about what he learned in the book, but they would not listen. Sometimes they spoke harshly to him, and other times they laughed. Eventually, they just ignored him. He was sad, so he withdrew to his room and prayed for them while nursing his own grief. For weeks, he would go out alone into the woods and the fields and read his book and pray. One day, as he was walking in the fields, he became so distressed and cried out, "Who will save me?" He thought that perhaps he should run, but to where should he run? As he stood there in misery, not knowing what to do, a man named Evangelist walked up to him and asked calmly, "Why are you crying?" "Sir, I've been reading this book," he replied, "and now I realize I'm condemned to die, and after that, God will judge me. I found that I'm not willing to do the first, nor able to do the second. Now I fear dying." Evangelist responded, "Why do you fear dying, since this life is full of evil?" The man answered, "Because I fear this burden on my back is too heavy and will make me sink lower than the grave until I fall into hell. If I'm not fit to die, then I'm sure that I'll not be fit to go to judgment and from there to execution. When I think of these things, it makes me cry. If this is your condition, why are you still standing here?"
Yeah.
Are we just doing page after page?
Just until we get to the first part, and then I'm gonna just quickly break it down.
What you leave off? Evangelist, man.
Yeah, I know, it's a tough
That's
word.
like a tongue twister, bro. Handed him a scroll with these words on it. Flee from wrath to come. The man read it and asked, but where should I flee to? There was a wide field before with a gate. Do you see the wicket gate? The evangelist asked the man, look far into the distance, and said, no, I do not. Evangelist asked, how about the light? Do you see the light? The man looked closer and said excitingly, yes, I think I do. Good. Keep the light in your eye and go straight to it. The evangelist, when you arrive at the gate, knock, and you shall be told where you are and what to do. Then I saw my dream that Christian, for that was the man's name, and set off running to the gate.
Let me see. Yeah. I'm gonna take it from here. All right. You can actually hold on to the mic because you will be the next person to read there. So, I just want to quickly unpack that, and then I'm gonna read. I'm a little bit faster of a reader. So that way we can quickly go through this. But basically, our story opens up with Christian having a huge birdie on his back. He had a dream that his entire town was going to be destroyed with fire, due to judgment from the wrath of God from the heavens, right? Because he read a book that told him he was condemned and that he was damned to hell. And there was no escape for him, so he was depressed, and he told his family, and his family thought he was crazy. And so he meets this character, called, the evangelist, right? Let me just make sure that So he meets the evangelist, and the evangelist is telling him, don't worry, you just got to focus on the path ahead of you. You got to focus on the light. And if you follow right there, you'll get to this celestial city, right? You'll get to where you're trying to go, which is to get rid of this burden. This is the only place that you can get rid of your burden. So, and now we go into, now that Christian had not gone far from his own home, when his wife and children came out running, pleading and begging him to come back home. But he had his hands on his ears, and he ran, crying, life, life, eternal life. He never looked behind him, but ran toward the middle of the field. His neighbors also came out to see him run. As he ran, some mocked, others threatened, and some cried after him to return. Two of the neighbors, obstinate and pliable, set off to bring him back by force, even if necessary. By this time, Christian was a good distance ahead of them, but they were determined to catch him, and they eventually did. Christian turned to the men and asked, why have you come after me? The men had to stop and catch their breath from running so hard. We have come to persuade you to return with us. But Christian stood his ground. I can no longer live in the city of destruction. I was born and raised there, but now I know what kind of city it is. My eyes have been opened, and I know the truth. Why don't you both come with me? Otherwise, you will die in this city and sink below into the grave, where this place burns with fire. What? Obstinate said, astonished, and leave our families and the comforts of our lives behind? Who knows what pliable and obstinate mean? We got these two characters already, and it's foreshadowing what their character qualities are going to be. It's who knows what obstinate means? Does anyone?
I'm curious about what they both mean.
Okay.
No.
It's like a synonym of stubborn, It's like
yeah.
You're not. It's like a synonym of stubborn. When someone's obstinate, they don't take correction easily. They don't take advice easily. They don't really move in a direction just because someone else is like, oh, someone trying to speak in your life. An obstinate person is like, no, you're not right. I'm just gonna.
Absolutely.
Insistent, even in the face of truth.
And we have a second character. His name is pliable. Okay? So if we have obstinate, and he's stubborn, he's closed-minded, he is stuck in his ways, he wants to go back to his comfortable life, then what do we think pliable is?
It's a synonym of liberals. I couldn't help myself.
Pliable.
Easily persuaded.
Easily persuaded, yes.
So it's like the two different extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. He's easily persuaded, and he's willing. He's willing to try something. He's willing to change. It's not hard for him to change, but we'll see how that plays in his favor. We'll see which one of these characters stick around long enough to see Christian get to where he's trying to go. We'll see which one lasts longer. You know, because inevitably Christian's going to keep going on his path. Which one do you think is going to stick around Christian the longest?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Or is that just a...
Yeah, just a hypothesis. Pliable, okay.
I think obstinate.
Obstinate, you think he's
Yeah.
gonna like,
He wants him more. Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, let's see where this goes, okay? Okay. All right. You know, and okay, so you want us to leave our families and the comfort of our lives behind us? Yes, said Christian. Duh. Everything that you leave behind will not even compare to the smallest portion of what I am seeking to enjoy. If you come with me and persevere, you will find more than enough. I am telling you the truth. Come with me and see, right? So there's this great promise, right? There's this great promise that if you come with me and you go on this journey, you're going to inherit something. You're going to see something that's greater than you've ever seen before. I'm going to draw a lot of parallels soon that's going to help this make sense, okay? But Obstinate was curious. He asked, what are these things that you are searching for that can't be found in this world? I'm searching for joy that does not fade, replied Christian. I am a secure inheritance in heaven that cannot be corrupted and will be given at the appointed time to those who earnestly search for it. He held out the book in his hand. Don't take my word for it. Read it. Read it in my book. Obstinate threw his hands up quickly and dismissed Christian. Nonsense! Put your foolish book away. Are you coming back with us or not? Christian shook his head. No, I will not come back with you. I have put my hand to the plow, and I shall not return. Obstinate motioned to Pliable. Let's go home without him, Pliable. There's no convincing a fool once they believe themselves wiser than all of their family and friends. But Pliable did not move. Instead, he seemed to be considering Christian's offer. Let's not be too quick to judge Christian, said Pliable. If he is telling the truth, then what he is searching for is far more valuable than anything we have here. I think I'm inclined to go with him. Obstinate was dumbfounded. What? You can't be serious. Don't follow a fool like him. Come back with me. Right? There's an enticement. There's a promise. Again, Pliable's enticed. He wants to see what is on the other side of this. Okay? Okay. Don't listen to him, Christian urged Pliable. Come with me, and you will discover things that I spoke of and so much more too. He extended the book to Pliable. Read the truth for yourself. This book has been fully confirmed with the blood of him who wrote it. Pliable did not take the book, but instead looked at his friend Obstinate and said, I think I will go along with Christian and share my fate with his. He then excitedly turned to Christian and said, do you know the way to this glorious place? I've been told by a man named Evangelist to hurry to the little gate in front of us where we'll receive further instruction and be told how to find the way. Pliable was enthusiastic. What are we waiting for? Let's go for it. Right? Let's get going. While the two of them took off as fast as they could for the gate, Obstinate stood in disbelief and yelled after them, "I'm going back home. I refuse to be misled by you fools." So you have obviously a very strong critic and naysayer, a heckler, if you will. And there's a bit of a biased confirmation on Obstinate's end, right? It's like, because, they're a fool and they're going off to do something just unfounded, he is able to justify him staying in his own comfort and wickedness, by naming somebody a fool or naming someone as lesser than you, it can justify your actions to do something that's wrong. And I think that's something that oftentimes we can become dismissive of other people's wise counsel because we consider ourselves wiser than them. And if we don't put ourselves in a place of humility, we don't have the opportunity to learn from other people. If you go into a room assuming that everyone knows more than you do, then you at least are open to the opportunity to learn. Now, Christian goes to have a conversation with Pliable. In my dream, I saw Obstinate go back home. In my dream, I saw Obstinate go back home while Christian and Pliable set off across the field, talking as they went, right? So the narrator of the story, he's explaining what happens next in his dream. Pliable, "I'm so happy that you decided to come with me," said Christian. "If Obstinate could only understand the dangers and terrors that await him, he would not have turned back on us so easily." "And I'm sure that is true now," Christian pressed an eager Pliable. "Since it's just the two of us, tell me more about the things we will find in our search." Okay, so Pliable's very curious. He wants to find out more. He starts off as very interested, very invested. I don't know if you guys can think of an example in your own lives where you were very invested in something that you didn't know much about, and you didn't know what it entailed. You thought you were equipped for it, and someone had told you that this was the right thing for you. So, and I know that Christian represents the person in the story who's going on the right path, right? But I think it's also very important to know that in every work of either cinema or in literacy and everything like that, they draw a lot of similar story types and arcs that are found even in the Bible. And I think what's intriguing about that is that the same thing that would entice you to maybe become a Christian, and the same promises and the same payoffs and rewards, the same things that go into it, there's a bit of psychology that anyone could use against you and use for their own devices. Anyone could use any of the enticing things, the way that it's presented, right? Think about a guru, right? On social media. He tells you, "Hey, try this thing out. I promise you're going to be making tens of millions of dollars if you just buy my course. I know you're gonna do good if you could just stick to it and work hard. You can escape the matrix." Like, we've heard that before, okay? And then there's many of us who are like Pliable, who are enthusiastic about it at first. And even if this person is leading you on the right path, are you going to have the courage to persevere with Christian? Let's see what happens to our friend Pliable. Okay? So Christian once again reached for his book. I can understand it is in my head for some reason that I find it difficult to talk about it. However, I know I can find the answer to all of your questions in this book. Okay? And you're confident the words in your book are true? Asked Pliable, pointing to Christian's book. Absolutely, said Christian, without hesitation. The book was made by him who cannot lie. That is good enough for me. So tell me, tell me more about these things in your book. Christian eagerly began, like finally, right? Someone who's interested to listen to to me spew out what other people think is nonsense, right? The book tells us of a world with no boundaries, life that never ends, right? There's this sense of foolish reassurance and blindness, this kind of hopeless, like a hopeless romantic in a way, where Christian doesn't really know much of what he's talking about. And it's, even though he's on the right path and he has good intentions, he's not knowledgeable enough to lead Pliable in any way. In fact, he's still carrying a burden of his own where he believes he's damned to hell. And as a Christian, right, as an actual Christian, not Christian in our story, we can't bring people to life if we haven't found it ourselves. And Christian hasn't found that yet. So we'll see how that lack of guidance plays out. So, amazing. What else does it say? Okay, says Pliable. It says that we shall receive our own crown of glory and robes that will make us shine like the sun. Well, that is incredible. Does it say anything else? Well, yes. It says that we'll never grieve again, and the king of this place will wipe away every tear from our eyes. Wonderful, replied Pliable. Then he paused and grew concerned. But who will we meet there, and what would they be like? We will be met there by angels and tens of thousands of saints in robes so bright that our eyes will be dazzled just looking at them. There will be those who have gone before us in this world and have stood for the faith and suffered greatly, including being burned on the stake, thrown to wild beasts, and drowned in the seas, all because of their love for the Lord. They will not harm us because they will greet us with love, because they will talk with God. They will walk with God. Although this is fascinating, it did not seem to alleviate Pliable's concern. Well, that's all interesting, very interesting, but what will be our share in all of this? And what will it cost? The Lord of the land has promised that if we are truly willing to receive our inheritance, he will give it to us freely, explained Christian. Pliable let out a sigh of relief. That's good news, Christian. Come on, let's pick up our pace and get there quicker. I'm trying, said Christian. I'm moving as fast as I can, but this load on my back slows me down. So, so much there. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to plow through to this next part before I unpack that, because we're almost done. Okay. Battling a swamp of despair. This is my favorite part of chapter 1. Okay. As they were talking, Christian and Pliable drew near to the very muddy swamp named Despair. In the attention that they were going, since neither of them were paying attention to where they were going, they both fell in, right? In modern time, they were looking at their phone, they were scrolling, and they fell into the swamp of despair, right?
YouTube Shorts.
You know, you know, just like walking, and boom, despair hits them. Why? Okay, we're gonna unpack that, right? They both fell in. They battled in the swamp for some time, totally covered in mud, and the load that Christian carried on his back made him sink even more. Oh, that's great. Not only was he not paying attention and he's now in a bind, but now he's sinking because of this load on his back, this burden. Notice how Pliable doesn't have a burden on his back. Why does Christian have a load on his back, but Pliable doesn't? Okay? This is a very important thing to kind of think about. You know, who wants to theorize why Pliable doesn't have a load on his back and Christian does? Okay, he's damned to hell. There's more, but
I think Pliable is easily persuaded, where Christian's already made up his mind. So where he can be persuaded, Christian's concluded.
Do you think that Pliable's actually persuaded, or is he just, you know,
Like the wind, in a sense. Like he's just
Yeah.
going with the flow.
Yeah, I think he operates more out of faith.
you think Pliable operates more out of faith?
You mean Christian operates out of faith?
No, I think
I
Pliable
think
is.
Pliable would.
It's like I don't have to worry. I'm just gonna believe what I'm saying,
Exactly.
what I'm reading.
Okay. So let me get this straight. You believe that Pliable operates out of faith, while Christian
Is doubting in a sense.
is doubting, and he's, you know, operating just, you know, by what he read.
Yeah, because Christian, in a sense,
I love this.
reads the book, you know, of course, and the only reason he took this journey in the first place is because he believed he was going to be damned to hell. Whereas Pliable just came out of nowhere, you know.
Going for the promises more than the.
Exactly.
Let me unpack this. This is really interesting. So you think it's better that Pliable is? I know Pastor Jeff has something to say.
So
Go ahead.
I guess to like reiterate my point, because I now have the mic. I believe Pliable has more faith than Christian does, because Christian only took this journey in the first place because he read in a book that he would, you know, everyone in the town was going to die and he was going to be damned to hell. Pliable, not knowing anything about the book, or you know what I mean, met Christian and was like, hey, you know, what's going on? And then, like, literally off of a whim, just was like, you know what? I'm not going to dismiss this. Let me go see about this place. He had faith that the place that Christian was telling him about was real.
Okay.
I don't think it was faith. I think Pliable just
Wait. Let's get you the mic. We want to hear what you have to say.
I think the first part was right about like what you said about Christian. He's doing this because of the burden on his back. He's not doing this because of, you know, what he's trying to convince Pliable of. So, like, the words that he's telling him, they have no weight because he doesn't really believe them. But Pliable, I don't think it's faith. I think Pliable just found something to do today. Sound like he just pulled up.
I like the way you put that. Yeah.
You know, he pulled up and he was like, "Hey, look, you know, there's something good going over here." He's like, "Okay."
I mean, fair point. But
Yeah,
All right,
right.
you know.
Yeah, he's just going with the flow, right?
Yeah.
I want to keep this away from here. I think you're most likely to answer next.
Yeah, pretty much my idea was, you know, Pliable can be easily persuaded, and so it's easier for him to just, like, go with the motion of things, what might be beneficial, compared to, like, what Renell said, with Christian having a burden, which is pretty much the fuel of why he's even doing it in the first place. Like, if Christian didn't have the burden, would he be going?
Right.
You know?
Right. So it's okay. So here's, you know, both of these. You remember Christian. It's a very. I love this so much because it's such an assumption. You know, I can't remember the word for it, but it's like when you presume, or it implies that he's a Christian, right? His name implies he's a Christian, right? Because that's, you know, so far every character has been on the nose. Evangelist. What was he? He was an evangelist. Okay. Obstinate. He was stubborn. Pliable. He seems to be, complying with Christian, right? Because his offer sounded better than Obstinate's offer, right? So we'll see where that goes.
Give him the answer?
Oh no, the answer is going to be revealed.
I want to hear the answer.
Did you have something to say about it?
He won't let me talk.
I know he knows.
Well, if I know, that means that you guys didn't get the answer yet.
Oh, right.
Xavier was the closest one so far about pliable. I think.
Oh my goodness, stop spoiling. Yeah. All right. Looking around, Pliable asked, Christian, where are we going now? Truthfully, I have no idea, said Christian. That's great. Struggling to find his way out.
Truthfully, I have no idea.
Offended, Pliable angrily asked, is this the happiness that you've been telling me about all this time? Ooh, right? Is this what happens at the beginning of our journey? I can't imagine what we are to expect to find at the end. Like, this is what we're going through now. What is this, I can't imagine how much harder it's going to be. If I can get out of this mess, with my life, I'm going home. And you can travel to your noble country without me. Piss off, right? So much for faith, right?
So much for pliable.
And with that, he gave a desperate struggle or two and climbed his way out of the mud and on the side that the swamp is nearest to home. And Christian never saw him again. So Christian was left to battle his way through the swamp of despair on his own, without any help. He formulated a plan and decided his best option was to reach the side of the swamp the closest to the wicket gate, in the opposite direction from his home. He slowly inched his way across the muddy swamp until he finally reached the edge, but found he could not get out because of how heavy his burden was on his back. Then I saw in my dream a man whose name was Help. How convenient. I told you, it has a bit of a funny humor to it. When you get used to it, it's quite entertaining. Right. Stop. Get some help. All right. And whose name was Help, and he came to him and asked him, what are you doing here? That was helpful. A man called Evangelist gave me directions to the wicket gate so that way I could escape the destruction that is coming, that's coming to my city. As I started heading to the gate, I fell in here. But why didn't you look for the steps to cross the swamp? Help asked him. I'm afraid that I was in such a hurry. That I did not see, and then I fell right in, Christian admitted, feeling a little bit embarrassed. Help reached out to Christian, give me your hand, and I will pull you out. And with that, Help pulled Christian out of the swamp and set him on a solid ground, wishing him well. Then, in my dream, I approached Help and asked him, excuse me, sir, since this place is on the way from the city of destruction to the wicket gate, why has no one repaired this patch of ground to keep those, who come by from falling into the swamp? And he said to me, the swamp can't be fixed since it's a low-lying plot of land. All sorts of scum and filth associated with the conviction of sin drain into it. Therefore, it's called the swamp of despair. And a traveling sinner becomes aware of their own lost condition, doubts, fears arise in their mind, and it all drains down and settles in this place. This is what makes the ground so bad. The king never intended that this place should remain in such bad condition, he said. For this very reason, his workers have been attempting to repair the ground in accordance to the directions of His Majesty Surveyor for over 2,000 years. What?
What's the savior's name? Surveyor?
Surveyor, I think. Oh, wait, sorry. Majesty's Surveyor, I think. Yeah, directions of His Majesty's Surveyor for over 2,000 years. To the best of my knowledge, this swamp has swallowed up at least 20,000 cartloads, which equates to millions of wholesome instructions that have been brought from all regions of the king's dominions in all seasons. It has been said that these were the best materials possible to make solid ground, but even so, the swamp of despair remains after they did all they could. So, while I was reading this book, I was reading another book. There was two books, The Compound Effect and Atomic Habits. Okay, that I was reading alongside with this. And The Swamp of Despair reminded me of something called The Valley of Despair. Okay, and I think Atomic Habits. I think in the book Atomic Habits or The Compound Effect. So there's this, it's very interesting. I dropped the book. It's very interesting how they both, talk about despair, but they're very similar. And I'm going to draw a parallel here because I think success in any area of life can be drawn to parallels in other areas of your life. Success on a basketball team and what it takes to be a successful basketball player could translate to be, for you to be successful in a workplace or for you to be successful in your field within your own right. So I believe to have a successful walk with Christ and a successful walk with God teaches you a lot of lessons to have a successful walk in your own life. That it is practical and it's not just this far off place where we're just constantly walking to this light with this burden on our back. It's where it seems unpractical for day-to-day living, daily life. So basically in this illustration there's a diagram. There's a line that represents what we think success looks like, right? You start here. And when you start here, you expect tomorrow to be here, right? If this was an X and Y plane, right? You start here, you expect to be here. The next day, you expect to be here, 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 until you go all the way at the top, right? A nice straight line. Well, according to the rule of 100 hours or 10,000 hours, right? It's not like that at all. In fact, it looks kind of more like this. The path to success and the path to achieving anything great in life is more of there's like an arc to it. And it starts off like this. Very little progress. Notice how my finger hasn't moved up in elevation. Yeah. So my finger doesn't move up in elevation, right? It's a curve. It's an arc. And it's not until it hits a certain breaking point that it dramatically shoots up, right? That's what you call, delayed gratification or latent potential. Latent potential is a law in physics, right? If you pull back a rubber band, right, it goes flying. Because there's tension. And, and you can talk about time under tension and how that applies. If you pull it back for too long, it loses what? Its elasticity. Right? Snaps. But at the right time, at the right peak, if you let it go, it's going to shoot as far as it can. And so there's a difference. The difference, or the, like in subtraction, right? The difference between 7 and 5 is 2, right? So the difference of this idea of how we think success should look like in this graph of how success actually looks like, there's a pocket. There's a nice pocket, and you can see it here on the bottom of the book. I illustrated it out, right? If
Can't see it on the camera. Describe it.
yeah, I described it already, so So there's a pocket right there. So if you guys had this image in your mind, then you had the right image.
It's a first.
There you go. Now they get to see it. Alrighty. But there's that pocket right there that seems impossible to get out of. And we can get stuck there because we see a lack of progress, or we just don't look for the path, and we were in a hurry to get to where we were going. Like Christian, we're in a hurry. We want to reach the other side of this, and I'm gonna end it shortly after. I'm gonna end it probably right about after this page, okay? And we're gonna. What time is it?
About that time.
Right. I'm gonna end it shortly after this, okay? And
Give them the answer to their question before you end it.
yes,
Okay.
yes, I will give.
So,
I am going to give some answers away, okay? And if you got, I would like next time that I do come up here to finish this chapter and go through some of the verses. And when I teach, just
yeah, you can do that.
I would like to take you guys through this book because I think it's a really great book. I think it draws some really great ideas. But unfortunately, we find ourselves in a place where, either like Christian or like Pliable, you don't have to answer who you relate to more. But I'm sure that there has been times in our lives where we've been able to relate to both of these characters. One who has such a heavy burden on his back, has such a propelling need to lead other people to the success, right? Like for instance, say Danny came up to Ronell and said, hey, I have a business opportunity for you. If you follow me, we're going to create a business and we're going to create success. We're going to make it out of what our struggle is, our current condition, right? Our current human condition. And, Ronell is happy to go along. He's like, oh, that's better than what I'm doing right now. And now we have our poor friend pushing along with this burden on his back, feeling responsible for Shiloh to be successful, right? Feeling responsible for his own success, feeling responsible for Ronell's success, where he believes that he is damned to hell because of everything that he's done in his own life. So, in other words, and to draw a more, lifelike comparison, you feel like you're doomed to failure because of the past failures you've had, and that you cannot find success in anywhere else in your life. And unfortunately, many of us are like Pliable. When we start off very eager, like we buy that course online, and when it gets hard, we're like, oh, this guy must have been an idiot. Must have been a bumbling idiot. Must have been just scamming people out here. And yes, those scammers do exist, but oftentimes it's a result of the work we didn't put in ourselves. Because likely, maybe that person did have some knowledge and things to offer you. It may have not been as easy as they had advertised, but they at least were showing you something that could very well result in you becoming a better person and you changing your disposition, if you would only apply yourself. So how do you do that with your walk with God? How do you do that with your walk with God? Because you can't do it in your own life if you don't do it with God first. Who are you in business with? Are you in business with your flesh, or are you in business with God? And you can't be in business partnership with God if you're not giving to God what's God's and giving to Caesar's what's Caesar's. Jesus talked about that when they asked Jesus, should we pay taxes? Right? And they were looking for Jesus to say, no taxes. Gas will be only $2. Make America great again. That's what they were looking for Jesus to say. And Jesus said, no. Whose face is on that coin? It's Caesar's face. So it's his money. Give to Caesar's what's Caesar's, and give to God what's God's. And you can't be in business partnership with God if you don't give to God what's God's. And you tithe with more than just your money. You tithe with your attention. You tithe with your time. You tithe with what activities you indulge in. There is a idea that a pastor once told me, this idea of tithing your whole life to God. It's not just about your money. He wants 10% of everything. Because
He wants 100% of everything.
right, but this idea, if he had 10% of everything, he has 100% of you.
He should have 10% of.
Because if he has 10% of 10 areas in your life, that makes up 100%. That's
funky math, right?
Yeah, it is funky math, but the idea, but the idea is to put him first.
All right, so let's it seems like you have to do multiple. It seems like you have to do multiple teachings on this. Why don't you tell the audience? I mean, you mentioned it, but you tell them the name of the book and the author so they can.
Yeah.
It's a famous book. You should know about this book. It's
So-
actually a movie, by the way, too. If you want to watch the movie, it's actually pretty good.
The movie's not as good as the book. It doesn't unpack everything.
Yeah,
So it's called The Pilgrim's Progress, the readable modern-day version of John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. John Bunyan, revision by
That's it.
Alan
That's all you need.
Ramon.
This-
Well, this is the specific one that you would want to get if you want to understand it, because the other ones are in Old English. So
Okay, as we go, that was great, and I think it's a great format to go through that book in this setting. I want to give you one. So give Logan a hand. That was a good effort. I want to give you a little bit of insight before we close, because if you remember back the beginning, the guy had a dream And the dream was that this city's going to get destroyed. There's destruction coming. And that's the burden he's carrying. And the burden comes from awareness, meaning the difference between him and obstinate and him and pliable is they had no burden because they had no awareness. They had no consciousness because God wasn't touching their heart to make them realize they were missing something. So the burden that he's carrying is the burden to know the truth, which the others couldn't have. So they had their personality, whether it was resistant and a contrarian, negative, the obstinate guy who's always going to resist and go to the opposite direction, or the pliable guy who's like the wind and the waves that get waves that get tossed by the wind until it gets really hard, like he got stuck in the mud, and then he says, "Okay, I'm out," because he's not carrying a true burden. In this case, the burden is not negative. The burden is what's pressing him forward to find the truth, because God's touched his heart to want to know the truth. And of course, he's given the name because of what he's going to become. Well, don't give the book away. Well, it should be obvious, right?
Right.
Anyway, so the next time. So by the way, what do you want to call this series? Pilgrim's Progress Part 1? Like, what do you want to call it?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, that I guess we're just taking a journey through the Pilgrim's Progress.
Okay, I'll do that. All right. Excellent job. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, you, Logan.